Hey everyone, welcome to Dave's Bonsai. On today's show, before we get started, a little relaxation from the plant room. Welcome to Dave's Bonsai. In the sense that I have a branch that splits into two shoots in here, so I'm probably going to cut this thing off right about here this fall. I've taken my knob cutter and I've gotten rid of some of that. So I just put them on the bottom, growing upwards into the bag. We fill it up with trees and then we water as we need to. Try to get rid of those air pockets. Welcome back, everyone. We are in the midst of some pretty unprecedented times in our country and the world with the COVID-19. And as I mentioned on a previous YouTube cast, if it's one thing that relaxes me, it's working on bonsais. So to continue stress relief for me, hopefully stress relief for you, I'm going to continue to film as much as I possibly can on everything I do in my plant room and preparing for spring with the bonsai, give you guys something to watch, take your mind off of other things. So let's continue with some bonsai work. And in this episode, we're going to work on this guy. So this right here is the scrappings of a budget bonsai. Yeah, this is a flowering crab tree. So a crabapple tree that'll have white flowers in the spring, should I get some buds up here. We're gonna put that into a pot finally this year. It was growing in my backyard all last year in this pot. Let's get it in a bonsai pot. This is going to be a messy one. I don't put on gloves very often, but we're gonna go ahead and put gloves on. This one's gonna be messy. Just in nursery dirt. My goal is to get it out of here. I'm assuming it's going to come out of here fairly easily. Because there isn't a lot of dirt. Here we go. Here we go. So that's what we have to look at. Nice weed growing right there. Let's get rid of some of this dirt. I've always allowed myself to let this plant room get super dirty, but then I have to be super good at keeping it clean. All right, so let's see what this guy's about. So I remember at the nursery with this guy. Again, this is a crabapple, a white mountain or a white. I'll look up the name when I'm in my editing bay. My iPad with all my plants and bonsai organization. With my bonsai app was at 0%, so it's up there charging while we start filming. So this one I walked by several times, and of all the crab apples, which there weren't too many, but I really wanted one. That was my mission that day, because I had been several times before and wasn't a lot of varieties, and the price point wasn't cheap enough for me. You know, again, bonsai on a budget more often than not for Dave's Bonsai. I just kept looking at this guy, and it's a very interesting trunk. there's all this gnarly decoration on here, and so from this side it looks kind of cool, but this side it kind of has that hollow, damaged look. And I knew some of this was on the ground, so I didn't know the extent of the width of this, but I thought, you know what, it's got a story perhaps, it's got some character. As this thing grows up, you know, who knows? And again, the price was so amazing that I couldn't pass it up. So though I had my reservations, I went ahead and grabbed it. It's got a very, very bizarre root structure, as you can see right here. That's long, not wide and spread out radial pattern at all in the least. But this is a craft, this is an art form, and we're gonna make what we can with what we got. So right away, I'm gonna go, I can't, this was one of the pots I was considering putting this in earlier. One of my short round ovals. And yeah, that's not gonna work. Yeah, I just thought I'd show that for a little comic relief. Yeah, that ain't gonna work. We're gonna have to probably find something new. I couldn't remember how big this one is. So you got this great big long root coming down here. I'm gonna cut that in half right now and just get rid of that. I have to be careful because at the ends of some of these long root structures there are other finer roots, so I don't want to get rid of everything. I've done that in the past by accident and then ended up killing a tree. So there's a few fine roots down there, but nothing to write home about. Look at this guy. Comes down here, comes curling way over there. I'm just going to cut it right here for the time being. Only because what I'm considering as I see how deep this thing goes down, if I have a big enough pot and I have enough rocks that I like, we could be in contention here for a root over rock. I do like the root over rock style. I've only just begun a couple in my collection, trying to make them, and I just want to have enough rocks where it are good enough rocks where it looks good and just doesn't look like I really severely placed it there, which happens at first. So yeah, this one looks really scraggly down here. We got to figure out where all this stuff is going. Ooh, that one's not even alive. That one right there is dead. So I came into this knowing that this tree, though it was alive last year, never had the thrive that I was hoping for. That's why I kind of didn't do anything with it last year. But now I want to get it into a bonsai pot with some bonsai soil, because I wanted to see what the roots were, what was happening with the roots, what was going on. And so now I can do that. And so right off the get-go, I've got this big root structure down here and a little bit one over here. I could put a rock right here. I could have this thing growing over a rock. And I got some roots that are just breaking on contact here. So this one right here is decaying and going away. So I don't know how much strength this one's going to have. So I don't want to cut too many roots off for hopes that I can just get this thing to grow. That was the risk of all this gnarly hollowed stuff out here. What was going on? Did I have some deeper issues going on with this tree? And you don't know until you dig into it. So instead of trying to grow it for one more summer, I wanted to see what was going on under here. And I've got some roots that are still going. I got some roots that have fallen off. And it's a very interesting structure. We are going to make it shorter regardless, because it is just way too big. We want all these bigger roots to make finer roots anyway. All right. So that's what we have to work with so far. Here we have the tree ready to go. So I cut, well, if that's about 4 inches from the bottom of my finger to the bottom of the roots there, that's about 4 or 5 inches. I cut about half off in length here. So it would sit in this bigger, a little bit deeper pot. I can get soil up to about here. I can mound it a little bit, and then we'll just see if this thing can survive its growth. I'm not worried about shape. I'm not worried about decoration, design at all in this case. This is just getting into a bonsai pot and hoping that it survives. I do not have a deeper pot than what I have right here. If I have a couple of bigger, wider pots, but it won't do me any good. So I'll put some bonsai soil in here and strap her down. And this is what we have to work with, so we're gonna make this go. The pot's all ready to go with the drainage holes covered. As you can see on this pot, they have 4 drainage holes, not very big ones, but you still gotta cover them, otherwise the soil is gonna go through there. Now we're gonna get some wire in there to tie down this guy. So this one will be a little bit more creative to tie down because it's so tall and nothing spreads out wide. I'm gonna have to wrap it around some roots at some level to keep this thing hunkered down. Might have to find some soft tubing so I don't damage the roots. A little research and I'll be back. We are all wired to go. Now I've got thinner wire than I would typically use, and I also have some rubber hosing. It's recycled from something that I had and knew that I'd be doing this someday. So keeping those elements that you need. Well, it's a pretty thin tubing that's got to fit through the wire. So I had to go with my smaller size. So I'll be cutting those pieces as it fits. But let us get a little bit of soil in there first. And in this case, I need to put a lot of soil in because it's just going to be standing on top of the soil. And then scrunch down like that, all the way to the bottom. Now, I've come to the conclusion right away with this that my wires are going to be seen. But like guy wires, and when people are wiring a branch down or doing something, wires are seen. I'm just going to try to make it look as pretty as possible. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to crisscross this over to this one, twist it down below, down here, but then I need to protect the roots right here. So I have to put the tubing on. Otherwise, I'm going to wreck it. I don't want to wreck it. So here we go. I'm going to put about that much tubing on, and we'll place it where we need it. So let's see if this wire is truly thin enough to put the tube on. And there it goes. Super thin wire, so this might be a little bit too long of a piece. Okay, now I have to make it so it's all the way down where I need it down here. So right there, that's going to cut across those roots right there and hopefully not tear into those roots right there. So now I'm going to come over here and see if this is a pretty good, this is a good little bump here in the roots. I can go ahead and bring this down and find a place to twist. Now again, this isn't the strongest wire, and this is aluminum, so I'm going to have to be careful and not twist too much or I'll just break it. So we're going to twist it a couple of times and stop. All I want to do right now. Remember, this is just going to hold this tree in the soil, and right now that's in there, not too shabby. It looks like this back one's going to come over and meet this one down here, a real nice spot. I don't think I made it long enough. I might have to get a new wire in there. Let's see what I can do with this though first. I'm going to put this here. Reach it up a little bit more this way. There we go. Because if I can reach this down lower, we can twist it lower, down away from the roots. Okay, so I have to find another piece of tubing and put it on our wire. So this tubing is going to protect from this wire digging into this, what I've discovered is a pretty sensitive root system. I think I put too much on there. There it comes poking through, so now I can at least hold the wire. So there we've put the wire in. I can wrap it around there nicely. The wire is hugged in there just where I want it to be. Come down here and give it a couple of twists. Using my hands only right now. Cut off my extra wires. So right now, gently lifting, it's holding it in there, and that's all I need. This tree does not have a lot of foliage, and it won't have a lot of foliage. So a couple of twists there, a couple of twists on this first one. Tuck that one in. This one's already pretty tight to the tree. One more twist, tuck it in, and there we go. That thing's not going to move. Now the rest of the soil is going to hopefully cover up these roots so they don't have too much dry out. This is one of those trees where, because of the way the roots I have and the roots I have left on this thing, I will mound it a little bit more than normal, just to protect those roots a little bit more. And then again, when you mound a tree with soil, the water can tend to drip right out. That's perhaps more later on in the tree's life when there's no percolation anymore, no water seeping through. Right now this is just bonsai soil. 1 part akadama, 1 part pumice, 1 part lava rock, and it's just, the water's just going to go right through. So for now it's fine to have mounded. But if I have mounded later on, next year at this time, that water, the soil starts to break down a little bit, the water's going to want to run right out of there and just run right off the edges. So I may soak this tree in a bucket of water sometimes. Make sure that it's watered through and through. As I do this, mostly rocks down here. So there's not a ton of air pockets per se because there's not a lot of roots. But I still want to get rid of as much air pockets as possible. We're pushing it down. Now, you can see the crisscross of the wire, but it's got that tube on it. It's not even that terribly ugly. But let's get some water on this guy. So I didn't put this root over rock right now because I just think that's just too much stress on this tree, which has a limited root source. We're just going to hope this thing stays alive this year. There's a chance it could just perish on me. But I thought it was worth the risk when I bought it. And seeing the roots, I'm a little more nervous today, but we'll do our best to keep it in some good situations. So I won't put this outside until now I know it's going to be weather that'll help it, not hurt it. So this will go into my cold frame. Actually, at this point, it'll just go in my garage. I think from this point forward in Minnesota, barring 1 or 2 nights, my garage will stay into the 30s above freezing. All right, so we're starting to drain through there real good. I'm gonna keep going a little bit more. So this is one of those trees where you have to have some vision. My vision is, well, right now, my goal is to keep it alive. My vision is possibly root over rock. As you can see right here, I got a little gap right there. That could be a rock underneath there someday. I'm going to cut off this right there. Just a little bit of odd, or not odd, but just death from before. So there, as you can see, I got this interesting structure down here of this tree. And I might get a couple more openings as time goes by. But if this is a live vein right here, and this is one of the live veins, and there's a live vein down here to support the growth of this tree and keep it alive, you'll notice I had, of course, a really big chop last year. And so it's the beginning of who knows what. And we'll continue to manipulate this tree as it matures, and for this year, hopefully stays alive. So there you have it. We got ourselves a flowering crab tree that's got a lot of growing to do. A lot of growing to do. This is one big experiment. It's what we always do, and it's what I love. For Dave's Bonsai, I'm Dave Weiss. We'll catch you on the next one. Welcome to Dave's Bonsai. In the sense that I have a branch that splits into two shoots in here, so I'm probably going to cut this thing off right about here this fall. I've taken my knob cutter and I've gotten rid of some of that. So I just put them on the bottom, growing upwards into the bag. We fill it up with trees and then we water as we need to. We try to get rid of those air pockets.